Hey everybody, welcome back to Vegas Tips and Tricks Weekly for September the 16th, 2023. And we're going to talk about a couple of things today. We will kind of wrap up our trip report from last week, talk a little bit more about downtown, some of the meetups we did, that sort of thing. But I want to touch on a topic that has kind of taken over the Las Vegas discussion forums this week, and that is the hack of MGM Resorts and the effect that that's had. Um, as I said earlier this week, feel very fortunate that I was in Vegas during the time frame that I was because, like the 2 days before we arrived, there was heavy flooding around the Strip area, but we didn't run into any of that. And then just a few days after we left, we saw this event take place with MGM Resorts. And the curious thing about it is apparently, and I don't think it's been confirmed by the sources, but apparently the same thing happened to Caesars pretty recently. And then there seems to be something going on this weekend with Venetian and Palazzo. So it's crazy. The curious thing about it is just over the last few weeks, I have been kind of studying a little bit more about computer networks and hackers and that sort of thing. And it kind of all sort of came together this week in terms of being like, wow, this is a real thing. Um, just to kind of summarize, if you haven't heard, and I'm sure most of you have, sometime early last week, I think probably around Monday, Tuesday, basically MGM discovered that someone had pretty much taken control of their computer network, and their response was essentially to take it down. The problem with that is almost everything we do anymore, uh, any interactions we have with anybody or anything involves these networks. And we saw that this week that, you know, the process of checking people into rooms was severely slowed. You couldn't, I still don't know that people's play has been tracked throughout this thing. Aren't able to make players cards. They're not able to give people free play. Um, Room charges seem problematic in most cases. Um, it's just kind of mind boggling the degree to which we become dependent on these networks and how vulnerable, apparently, at least, a number of these networks are. And it's sobering because, this is, in the scheme of things, it's kind of small potatoes. I mean, it's not small potatoes if you planned a trip to Las Vegas and you get there and your experience is severely curtailed, and not nearly what you expected because of this. But hopefully, those sorts of networks that we're more dependent on for our livelihood, whether it be the electrical grid or the federal government or any number of such things, hopefully is a more hardened target than these um, casino resorts, because it seems like it has just been a couple of weeks that have proven that these folks really need to get their security stuff together. Um, how does this impact you as a MGM customer, as a Caesars customer, a Venetian customer, heck, a customer of any of these major casino companies, because they all are apparently somewhat vulnerable? Um, well, obviously, keep an eye on any credit cards that you've used at these properties, particularly, whatever credit card you had on file the last time you stayed there. It's been reported that a lot of customer data, customer information has already shown up on the dark web for sale. So definitely, as I have, keep an eye on your MGM Rewards MasterCard. Keep an eye on your Caesars card. Any sort of branded credit cards, or really any cards that you've used at those properties, could potentially be vulnerable. Um, So, in some cases, I haven't looked. I have looked on a few occasions already to see if there's any suspicious charges on my cards, and I haven't seen anything yet. Hopefully, I won't. But if you have the ability to turn your card off and on, and I do know a number of banks do allow that anymore, it might be a good opportunity to maybe shut things down for a little while until this sort of blows over. Certainly, this is not the first breach of this kind, but it is the first time I can remember anything like this happening. We thought COVID was unprecedented, and it was. This is also unprecedented in terms of the impact. At one point, I think probably like 90% of the machines on the casino floor were down. And still to my knowledge, there's still a significant number of the machines down, and basically every payout has to be a hand pay. So if you've been dreaming about getting hand pays in Vegas, just hang out at the MGM properties, put in 20 and then cash out. And I know the employees there have been stressed beyond belief. You can't possibly plan for an eventuality like this, because think about it. A generation ago, probably, or thereabouts, almost all of these functions that are now computerized were performed by individual people. Whether it be tracking your play or paying you out after you won money on a machine, everything was much more individual people, and those people don't exist anymore. There are no change ladies going around giving you quarters, and that has streamlined the entire process for all of us. We've come to rely on the Tito's and the ease with which we can move between machines with just a piece of paper. So hopefully there will be a lesson learned of sorts by these casino properties, and they will do a better job of sort of hardening themselves, making them less vulnerable. It appears, at least, that since some of this may have just been someone gaining the confidence of some employees and getting some access, and that these folks are really smart. They may be bad people. They also tend to be really bright people. And once they get into the system, they find a way to sort of escalate their level within that system, getting access to passwords and so forth. So again, Caesars appears to have paid some sort of ransom. The number I heard was 15 million. And I don't know. I guess there was no real interruption in service. Whether there was data that was compromised, probably was. But in the case of MGM, they see the reaction they've had basically was to shut everything down until they can sort of regain control. And I don't know how close they are to doing that. I'm sure they've been involved with the FBI and law enforcement, and trying to find the best sort of IT professionals in the world to try to help them get out of this. But it is truly a mess. I mean, anybody who's ever had to deal with identity theft, or who has had their private information compromised, had cards that were compromised, can relate in some degree. But this is that times a million. And it impacts so many people. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Hopefully, when we talk again next week, there will be some kind of a resolution, and we will not be sitting here talking about guests at MGM Properties dealing with this consistently. I do think we're probably close, but that again is just a guess. It has been quite a summer in Las Vegas. It's going to be quite a fall and winter in Las Vegas as we approach the Formula One race, as we move towards the Super Bowl in February. I mean, it's going to be an unprecedented time period, and you wonder if this had happened in November, 2 months later than it did. What kind of impact that would have had. Speaking of the Formula One race, I was actually going to talk about this a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't really bring it up, but it was entering my mind. Are we going to eventually see some of these ridiculous room rates for the Formula One weekend drop? And we did this week, at least on some properties. A number of the Caesars properties, the price dropped around 40 to 50%. That's a pretty big deal. I'd be canceling and rebooking if I had paid the ridiculous amount of money that they were requesting earlier. So, to my knowledge, there are not a whole lot of tickets available for the race yet, um, but the construction of the grandstands is coming along, and it's been a bit of a debacle. But I have to say, if I can remember, if I have the opportunity to check it out, it certainly will be something to see coming up here, like I said, in a couple of months. Okay, so I did want to talk a little bit about the trip. I really pretty much just left out our one night downtown at the D. Um, because I had planned to do my sort of birthday open house at the D, I thought it would be nice to just be able to go upstairs and crash. So I booked a room there. I think it was like a corner deluxe room or something. It sounded reasonably good. And then I got that email offer you always tend to get from these hotels about upgrading, if available, to one of the D suites. And I was like, well, you know what? I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that. So I went ahead and I bit the bullet, and I can't remember how much more. I think it was around probably about $60, $70 over what I was already going to be paying to get the D suite. I was not disappointed. It is a really nice place. It really is truly a suite. There's a really nice sort of, I guess you'd say, living room, setting room area with a big couch area. You could definitely entertain a group of people. I thought it was really good for me because probably there were two, three, four times that I would bring, a handful of people up to the room. It was an opportunity to kind of sit down and talk and catch up on some things outside of that loud casino environment. And certainly the D is a pretty loud casino environment. So it was really nice. There were three TVs in that room. I could only get one of them to work. I wasn't really in the mood to try to figure out why. Very nice bed, very nice bedroom, and then a um, big bathroom as well. The rooms are not cheap by any means. They're probably not a great value compared to some of the other suites or large rooms in downtown, but I definitely would recommend the D. I do have a few pictures, a little bit of video from that eventually I'll throw in probably as a short. So enjoy that. The D was fun. We primarily were upstairs near Bar Canada the entire time. Um, Never did get on the Sigma Derby machine, but we definitely put some money through the Fortune Cup machine, which is no longer right next to the Sigma Derby machine. It is kind of off to the left of the Bar Canada area. So I would say we probably had somewhere between 20 and 25 people who made their way there that night, and certainly do appreciate all those folks. And I know some people sacrificed and made a very special effort to actually be in Las Vegas for a couple of days just so they could be there for that event. And it certainly meant a lot to me, and it was great seeing everybody. It was disappointing to me that there wasn't more time to spend one on one with some of the people who did come out. I felt like I had to try to touch base with as many people as I could. In the end, I don't know that I did a great job of that, but rest assured that I'm very happy that you all came in. We did eat at the hot dog place there, which now the name of which totally escapes me. I had not eaten there before. It was quite good. We had like the chili cheese dog, I think, and then we had some chili cheese fries, and so that's a tasty treat on site there at the D. And that was pretty much what we did. On the next morning I guess we had actually checked out of our room, we actually played bingo. First time I had ever played bingo, at least in like a formal casino setting. Went to the plaza and did that. I think it cost us $35. The wife and I basically shared a ticket, and we didn't win anything, but it was like an hour. It was kind of entertaining, you did get like 2 free drink tickets. So I mean, I ended up getting a couple of beers out of that. Wasn't super crowded. It was, I guess, a Thursday morning. But yeah, I enjoyed that. It was a good experience. I would definitely do it again if I had been staying downtown for another night. I probably would have done another session because it's a pretty good way to kill some time, have a chance to win some money, and again, a couple of free drinks. Not so bad for an hour's work. So definitely, in my mind, worth checking out. Did not have any real great luck the on the plastic horses on this trip. It was the second consecutive trip with no good luck on those, so may have to give those a rest for a while. Did not play a lot of video poker. Did have a couple of nice hits that on a couple of occasions, a couple of four of a kinds that helped me out. Had some really good luck on Keno at times. Hit for 1,400 quarters and 1,500 quarters 2 days running. And so that kept me playing for quite a while. I ended up under budget for the trip, which is always good. Um, so, so yeah, the final day was kind of laid back. We were all kind of tired. Did spend a little bit of time hanging out, watching the football game that night, and just kind of resting up. And a fairly uneventful flight home, although there was a little bit of a delay taking off. Seems like that's becoming more and more normal in Las Vegas. So we were a little bit delayed, got home a little bit later than we planned, but overall a good experience. And again, it was so great seeing everybody. I'm not sure when the next trip to Vegas is coming up. It may be next September. We'll see. But regardless, we'll continue to talk about Vegas. We'll continue to keep you up to date on what's going on in Las Vegas and continue to provide you, hopefully, with some of the best information about how you can best enjoy your Vegas stays. Okay, we're going to wrap it up today, and we'll be back on Wednesday with, I think, episode 95 of the Vegas Tips and Tricks series. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Vegas Tips and Tricks Weekly. Until then, I hope you have a great, lucky, and healthy week. We'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.